Taking the second language methodologies class at ASU has been a very eye-opening learning experience about how students and teachers navigate the process of second language acquisition. I was quite floored over the amount of research theories and the many organizations that are based around testing and monitoring second language proficiency. I was a peer tutor for Spanish and American Sign Language at a community college in Washington State, and I discovered some of the strategies that I used to tutor were part of these foundational theories of second language learning. I was also able to reflect more in depth on my study abroad experience in Costa Rica and compared that mode of learning with the Spanish lecture classes I took at community college. The theories I found most interesting were the 5 C's of communication, sociocultural theory, and the cognitive theory and the interaction approach. The connections and communities aspects of the 5 C's appealed to me in my style of learning and teaching because language is not learned in a vacuum, and making connections over other disciplines create relevance for students in applying their new language skills and engaging in the community to refine and strengthen their skills. While studying at a Spanish institute in Alajuela, Costa Rica, part of our curriculum was engaging with the community through events, living with a host family affiliated with the institute, and dedicated classes about Costa Rican culture and history that were taught in English, which allowed to make connections over our own national and personal history in our native language. The immersion experience stands on its own, and it cannot be replicated, but incorporating the cultural and community aspects into second language learning invites critical thinking and reflection on how culture is the most influential aspect to a language. In creating a hypothetical Spanish 101 class based around the history of black slavery in Latin America and the contributions of Afro Latinos over the centuries, I discovered the importance of centering second language learning coursework around cultural significant issues that are relevant to the issues students face today. In observing different classes at ASU, I noticed that the classes that had authentic cultural material, such as train tickets from China and news broadcasts from the National Chinese Station, had a higher level of student interest and engagement than the Spanish classes that used material provided in the textbook. I believe this was a great example of the comparisons aspect of the 5 C's, because a student could see themselves taking a train in a different country and needed the real world skill of deciphering the information on the ticket and how it differs from a U.S. train ticket. Providing authentic materials and social issues of certain cultures of the target language enhances the socio-cultural aspects of scaffolding and student engagement, because the content goes beyond the textbook and students are able to co-construct the activities they are engaged in in accordance with their own socio-history. This leads to a learning as a group mentality for a classroom where the students' individuality and perspective are an asset in a collaborative effort to perform new functions and skills that alone they could not produce. I noticed the longer an instructor lecture discussing material that was on a PowerPoint slide instead of letting the students read it independently, the less focused the class was as a whole. And when the class was introduced to authentic materials, not from the textbook, including media, and assigned a group task, the engagement and interest increased and produced the sought-after communicative environment that is the bedrock of modern second language pedagogy. I feel the research theories presented throughout the semester had some valid points and discoveries, but not many of them incorporated the socioeconomic status and race and ethnicity of their test groups, which is often a deciding influence and factor in academic performance and the pursuit of higher education. I personally would like second language acquisition to be marketed as a great economic opportunity for students and provide specific career and cultural tracks, Black Heritage Spanish, Southern Cone Spanish, etc., to provide direct employment opportunities after the completion of a certificate, minor, or major in the Spanish field that is set apart from ESP programs. The connections aspect to this method would also include working with different departments, such as offering Black Heritage Spanish as an elective for African American history, major, minor, or any other history degree, and attract students that may not have considered pursuing a second language during their college career. I think having a career path for second language acquisition creates the structure needed for long-term service projects in the community that will enrich students' language skills and engagement with native speakers, while supplying a personal connection with the target language. My ideal classroom setting would involve a culture-based curriculum. Black slavery in Latin America is my focus for my master's program that supplies different degree and certificate requirements, and students have a clear idea on how to implement these skills after graduation. I would depend on the text for online aspects of the course, but bring in the relevant historical aspects coupled with the material that will be tested in each chapter test. An unconventional aspect of the course would be the assignment of a long-term service project where students would meet regularly with native speakers in their community and be a conversation partner with them, where they would participate in English and Spanish literary exchange and conversation practice. Through the aspect, students would negotiate meaning and be exposed to the correct forms and pronunciations that a peer cannot provide. As the students' second language skills grew, their service responsibilities would change to aid native speakers in varying capacities. I would also like to provide a conversation network for students that take a semester off from their target language and can drop into different meetings where their level or lower is being spoken by peers. I would focus my lessons around the task as work plan with emphasis on metacognitive skills drawn from the cognitive approach, while having students form critical thinking skills to listen and speak more effectively. I would include as much relevant, authentic material as possible and implement many aspects of sociocultural theory based in a learning as a group setting. I would treat each semester as a data gathering experience for students and the instructor, and have students complete can-do statements at the end of each chapter that would be compiled into a portfolio centered around their service project and conversation partner. I would myself keep a log of all my material and lesson plans and compare them with student performance to evaluate if a different approach to the subject matter would yield better performance from students as a whole. The overall goal of the class would be to have a level of humanity intertwined with the second language learning that would hopefully create an environment of empathy where students understand that language provides a connection to a new group of people, their culture and history, and this elevates our understandings of ourselves and breeds a culture of inclusiveness.